Hey, how's it going, everyone? Better to sell stocks in retirement or to live off of dividends? That's the topic we are going to explore in this video, and please stay till the end because there's a special message waiting just for you. And to be fully transparent, I am revisiting and elaborating on a video that I already made that argues for dividend investing leading up to retirement. And this time around, I wanted to run the numbers in a different way with a focus on retirement to see which retirement method is actually better. As a refresher, in the financial independence retire early community, it's almost written in the Constitution to play by the 4% withdrawal method. As long as the withdrawal is smaller than the portfolio's annual growth, in theory, the portfolio should sustain itself. So a quick illustration of this is on your screen right now. Let's say you retire with $1.5 million, and the portfolio grows at a rate of 8%, which is the historic average for the market. Now, when the portfolio goes from 1.5 million to growing 8% to being 1.6 million, then you withdraw 4%, and that withdrawal is going to be $64,800. And in the following year, this number is now going to be $1.555 million because you took out that 4%. And as the strategy grows, you would let this grow 8% to $1.6 million, and then you withdraw 4%, which is going to be $67,000, and then you rinse and repeat. So in theory, the portfolio sustains itself. And with a dividend retirement, it's pretty straightforward. You get a reliable and predictable income based on the portfolio's dividend yield. So let's say you also retire with $1.5 million, and that portfolio grows at a rate of 8% year over year. So you're going to have $1.6 million. Now, a dividend yield of 4% would give you income of $64,800. The only difference is with dividend income retirement, there are no selling of stocks or assets necessary. So now that we're all on the same page, we will do a comparison of how the numbers play out for the traditional F.I.R.E method of 4% withdrawals versus the dividend income in retirement. So let's say that after 30 years of working and investing, you have reached your milestone portfolio valuation. The first comparison will be through the lens of lean F.I.R.E, which means a smaller portfolio valuation because you need less money for retirement if this is your strategy. Not everyone has the means or a six-figure salary to get a huge retirement portfolio. So all I'm trying to say is you better watch your privilege, young man, before you get canceled. And as I alluded to earlier, I tweaked some numbers from the original video so that the traditional 4% of selling stocks portfolio and the dividend portfolio would have the same first year withdrawal. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happens after you reach $600,000 in retirement. So in your first year of retirement with $600,000 in a lean F.I.R.E 4% portfolio, let's say that it grows at a rate of 8.5%. So the portfolio grows to $651,000. Then at the end of the year, you decide to do a 4.4% withdrawal, which would give you $28,600. So after withdrawing that, now the portfolio valuation becomes $622,000. Now, if we let the portfolio bake and cook 8.5% for the next year, then it grows to $675,000. And then at the end of the year, if you do a 4.4% withdrawal, that's going to be $33,000 for you to spend on your expenses. And then after withdrawal, it's $641,000. And then so forth and so forth. And now the dividend version. Now let's say that with a dividend retirement portfolio, you invest into very mature companies, so their growth rate is not going to be as high as the market rate. So we're going to go ahead and assume that the portfolio is going to grow at a rate of 4% year over year. And because of that, the starting dividend yield is going to be higher than usual at 4.5%. So the total rate of return is still going to be 8.5%, but it's just portrayed a little bit differently once it's broken down. But then you also have to take into consideration that the dividend payments grow. So in this case, we're going to say that the dividends are going to grow at a rate of 4.55%. So let's go ahead and look at your first year in retirement, which means that your annual income from dividends is going to be at $28,000. And in the following year, let's just go ahead and assume that the portfolio grows 4%, and now it's going to be $624,000. And then the dividend payout for that is going to be $29,500, and so forth and so so forth. Now, I want you to look at the bottom of your screen. With this dividend income portfolio, you do not have to sell any stocks in order to generate a withdrawal or income or dividend. Those dividends are pouring in. And so when I think about this, it just makes a lot of sense to me, right? It's kind of like looking in the mirror after doing a cold plunge and noticing how small your wiener really gets in cold water. And that's something I've been into these days. Not having a small wiener, but doing those cold baths. And I've just been experimenting with doing it because it feels phenomenal. And the best part is it makes your nipples rock solid. I'm talking about you can literally grate cheese like you're a server at the Olive Garden. I would say it's pretty cool, and I should probably put that on my resume. I can grate cheese with my rock hard nipples. Jokes aside, let's go ahead and look at the numbers side to side. So on the left side of your screen is going to be that growth portfolio, the traditional 4% selling of your assets. And on the right side is going to be the dividend income portfolio. So up until year 35 of your portfolio, or I guess 5 years into retirement, the growth portfolio should have a higher valuation than the dividend portfolio. However, that 4% growth rate portfolio is going to catch up because the dividend portfolio valuation is going to be $701,000, whereas for the traditional 4% portfolio, it's going to be $699,000, even though we said that that portfolio is going to grow at a rate of 8.5%. Likewise, when we look at the annual dividend or that income, the traditional portfolio beats out the dividend one year after year. However, on year 42, that's when the tables turn because then the dividend portfolio gives a bigger income than the regular traditional 4% portfolio. So I guess the assumption that we can make here is right out of the gate for retirement, the growth 4% traditional portfolio is better than the dividend one up to a certain time frame. And now we're going to go ahead and look at a typical portfolio at the start of a retirement because not everyone is going to retire with 600 grand. So in this case, an example, the valuation is going to be a lot higher than the lean fire example. So please prepare yourself. So first up is going to be that traditional 4% portfolio where you sell some of your stocks at the end of the year to generate that income. So let's say that you retire with $1.5 million. All the other parameters are still the same. The portfolio is going to be growing at a rate of 8.5% year over year, and the withdrawal is still going to be 4.4%. For the first year, we're looking at your income being $71,000. And after you make that withdrawal, then the portfolio valuation should grow $55,000 from its initial value after taking your cut. And as we fast forward throughout the years and we look at year 43 into retirement, well, then the income that you generate from this hypothetical portfolio is going to be $117,000. And the portfolio valuation should be $2.2 million from that initial $1.5 million. This requires the market to behave the way you want it to so that you can get that perfect 8.5% rate of return. Now, on the other hand, let's go ahead and look at the dividend retirement portfolio. Let's say that you also retire with a $1.5 million portfolio, except instead of selling your stocks, now you're just allowing your dividends to pay you that income. In the first year into retirement, you're looking at $70,000 as your annual income. And by year 43, your dividend portfolio should pay you around $120,000 in dividend income. And the portfolio valuation should be $2.4 million if it grows at a rate of 4% year over year. Now, here's something that you might not know about me. I work a minimum wage job, part-time, and YouTube is my full-time thing. This is a true story. And right now, I make about $5 to around $8 on each video that I upload. And you can call me delusional, but hopefully in the future, it would be cool if we can make at least $10 a video so that I can do a normal fire instead of a lean fire. Just sharing with you my goals and aspirations because my dogs have heard this speech way too many times. And once again, we're going to look at the strategies side to side. Because the parameters are still the same to the lean fire example, it's the exact same situation. Right out of the gate, the growth portfolio gives you more income year after year up until about year 42. Likewise, the portfolio is better and bigger in valuation up until year 5. So it really depends on what you're looking for. Do you want more money up front? or do you care that your money is more in the long run? Because it's pretty neck to neck, or is it neck in neck? I don't know. It's a pretty close race, but we do have to give the edge to the traditional 4% portfolio. However, in year 42, the dividend portfolio should give you an income of $115,000, whereas selling your stocks in the traditional portfolio yields $113,000. And I just feel like this is crazy, because are you really going to complain when you're in your 60s or 70s that your portfolio is only $2.2 million when it could have been $2.4 million? I feel like once you're a millionaire, like you just got to shut up and appreciate and feel blessed. Which takes me to my next point. It's like comparing apples to apples, or an iPhone to a Samsung Galaxy, or your cardio options to stay in shape. Whether it's rowing, biking, running, they all do the same job of getting your heart healthy. But I will say this, running is definitely the worst. And here's a fun fact. I have a six-pack, and I'm in pretty good shape for my age. I'm in my mid-30s, but I still hate running. Running just does not make sense to me. I hate it so much, and I think that's why I enjoy doing it. You know what else doesn't make sense? Sometimes I'll be changing in the gym locker room after a workout, and I'll catch a quick glimpse of another guy from the corner of my eye. Not because I want to, but because it's just like it's happening right in front of me. And because I'm curious about their physique, of course. And I promise I'm not one of those old, pervy men that just walk around naked with their balls hanging down to their knees. And sometimes when this happens, the guy will lift his arms up to take off his shirt, and I'll see a head full of hair in someone's armpit. It just makes no sense to me. Like, what is the biological reasoning and point of having armpit hair except perhaps braiding them? And judge me if you want, I started shaving my armpits when I was in the army because I was paranoid about ticks latching onto my body hair, and I've never turned back. Even to this day, my armpits are smooth like my brain. And you're absolutely right. I'm immature because the idea of nipples, farts, and armpit hair, it makes me giggle like a gay man watching the NFL Combine. But getting back on topic, as the data shows, both routes do the job in retirement. Both methods provide income, growth in valuation, and relative stability. So I hate to be that guy, but there is no wrong answer. Both retirement strategies seem pretty solid and good on paper. So to answer the original question, either one works well. One method is more hands-on and the other is more hands-off. That's the only real difference. No, but really, which do you prefer? Me personally, knowing the data, my preference is still dividends in retirement. Stick with me. And here's my reasons why. Number one, the dividend retirement portfolio is as passive as possible. There's nothing I need to do in order to get those dividends. And number two, there's no timing the market to sell. I'm not going to sell any of my assets. Those dividends are going to keep pouring in. And number three, special dividends. Sometimes companies pay a special dividend on top of their regular qualified dividend payments. So let's say in a particular year, I'm expecting $50,000 in dividend income, but because of those special dividends, I actually get $58,000. That means with that extra cash, if I am eating out, instead of ordering water with my meal, I'm going to go ahead and order a pint of Blue Moon. You see the difference? It's like a cherry on top that comes out of the blue. For example, Costco, Albertsons, and Main Street Capital paid a special dividend very recently. And then before I forget, number four, there is a fourth reason why. And that is flexibility. A dividend portfolio can easily be converted into a traditional 4% portfolio by selling assets if I needed to at any moment. For instance, if I end up with a terminal illness, I can go ahead and sell my portfolio and live like a king, doing whatever I want until the last days where someone else is going to have to wipe my booty hole. So I guess you would be living the dream life with a bit of a tragedy. But can you imagine living life in a way where you never have to worry about the price tag or how much something costs? You could just be like, put it on the card. But realistically, if this were to happen, I would just create a scholarship that would help students attend college without any selling of those assets. Those dividend payments would pay for those students' tuition. I don't know, that's something that I would consider doing. And this video is not an argument of growth versus dividends, but check this out. This data is looking at the past 50 years, and it shows us that dividend companies have outperformed the non-dividend paying companies companies within the S&P 500. So this data shows us that $100 in 1973 in a dividend grower and initiator company, meaning a company that pays dividends and then raises those dividends year after year, it would have grown to $14,000. On the other hand, if you invest into a company that does not pay a dividend, well then that $100 would have grown to $843. Huge difference. And when we break this down year over year, the annual rate of return for dividend growers and initiators was about 10%. On the other hand, a company that did not pay a dividend in the S&P 500, their growth rate would have been 4.2% year over year. But I will say this in defense of growth stocks. The best growth companies are most likely not going to be included into the S&P 500 because they're relatively not big enough yet. So when I think about the best growth stocks, I think about a small company that is still scaling its business and having a 400% return in a single year because of future expectations. And I promise they are out there, but guessing which ones will be a winner takes a lot of luck, and it's similar to gambling. And that's why I'm okay with investing into mature companies that have their finances and cash flow in order so that they can pay a dividend. Because the data shows us that dividends matter. And something else that matters is whenever I watch something that's British, as an American, the first thing I have to do is press pause. And then I enable the subtitles. And those subtitles matter because it can make the difference between me watching it or not. For some strange reason, I have trouble understanding British English. So my question to you is, if you're from Germany, the UK, or even the Netherlands, do you guys turn on subtitles when you watch someone speak English with an American accent like mine? I'm genuinely curious, so please let me know. And the big reason as to why I can't get behind selling 4% of my portfolio each year in retirement is because think about it like this. If you anticipate to retire on year 30, like our example, and you've been working and investing your money, and you have all of your plans ready, well, what happens if the market has a downturn event and your portfolio drops by 25%? Like your portfolio goes from $600,000 to $450,000 in a matter of months. Or if we enter into a really long bear market that lasts about a year, 2 years, or even 4 years. So like my whole thing is, you think because you wanted to retire by a certain date in the future, the stock market is going to cooperate with your retirement plans? You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of uncertainty and anxiety with that. And that's why when I think about dividends, it's dividends despite market conditions, what you see on your screen. Through the ups and the downs, the income that I forecast should be the income I expect, especially if I am invested into high quality compounders. Yes, but dividends are not guaranteed. They can be cut, you know. Dividend cuts are not as frequent as growth investors paint them out to be. In fact, it's a pretty rare event, especially if the company is high quality and compounding their metrics. When it comes to dividend cuts, it's always the shaky companies with declining profits that end up getting rid of that dividend. But a company like Apple, Microsoft, Texas Roadhouse, or even McDonald's, not a fat chance. But don't take my words for it. Take a look at the data that you see on your screen. McKinsey, one of the most prestigious management consulting firms in the world, found that from 1994 all the way to 2021, they studied 1,200 large cap companies. And they found out that in a typical year, a normal year, less than 2% reduced their dividends. However, the number of companies that cut their dividends only increased when there was a major economic crisis. For example, more than 5% of companies reduced their dividends during the 2009 Great Recession, and more than 15% reduced their dividends during the COVID-19 pandemic. But again, what I'm trying to say is a smart, patient dividend investor, they're not going to be invested into these shaky companies, into these maybe companies. It's the maybe companies that give dividend investors and companies a bad reputation. And speaking of reputation, my goodness, I don't think I ever had a bad experience eating Domino's pizza. The consistency is always there, no matter if it's in Iowa or Florida or Virginia, it always tastes the same and it's good. It's kind of like McDonald's. I know what I'm going to expect. On the other hand, sometimes I feel cheap and my wallet feels burdened. So I do choose to get it hot and ready from Little Caesars time to time. And it's like, what, $6 $6, maybe $7 with tax. And when it comes to Little Caesars, it's a coin flip. Sometimes it hits the spot, like a truck driver on the road for 14 hours and then having their first meal, that type of good. And other times it tastes terrible, like a soggy school lunch pizza. There is no in between. And I'm not bagging on Little Caesars because sometimes I like to live life on the edge and order it, knowing full well it could be a delicious dinner or food for my dogs. It's fun, and I actually like Little Caesars. So if you like them, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. And hey, here's the message I wanted to relay to you that I said in the beginning. If you are feeling alone and you feel like no one cares about you, let me just say this. That's not true because I care about you. I know sometimes living life gets hard. Doing your obligations and the right thing all the time can be difficult, and oftentimes it's a thankless job to do the right thing. That's just the nature of being a good man. We are expected to do all of these things without recognition or praise, and that's just the culture and society that we live in. And that feeling of loneliness, I know all too well. But stay strong, because I'll tell you what, life is such a gift, man. But I hear ya. When we're all down and sad, we lose sight of that. But the reality is, we live in an era where there's so many great games, movies, books, and music to explore. Every single day, you could be stumbling upon something new that's just worth deep diving into, and we all have our hard days. But sometimes it's just about getting through to that next day. Never underestimate the power of taking a warm shower where you don't touch your wiener and getting a good night's rest and sleep. Then when you wake up and you take a nice dump on the toilet, you can look forward to going balls deep into your hobby or passion project. And don't even lie to me, indulging in your hobby is a fantastic feeling, right? So something I'm big into these days is Hawaiian music, and I'm not from Hawaii. Try listening to some vintage Hawaiian music while going on a walk outside. Get that fresh air, just try it out. And please don't do something stupid, because the Dividend community needs you alive and well. With that said, I'll talk to you next time, okay? Promise me. Stay safe.